Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. In this video, you are going to get an in-depth look at the new mixing solution we just deployed here at High Pointe Church in the great state of Washington. In this video, you're gonna learn so much about the benefits of using the Allen Heath Avantis alongside of Waves SuperRack. We're gonna talk about in-ear monitoring solutions, both the personal mixers that are compatible with this mixing console and some wireless solutions to ensure that you have quality RF management and your mix sounds amazing for the musicians on stage. We're also gonna show you these amazing drum microphones we deployed on a really awesome drum kit. This is probably my favorite acoustic drum kit I've ever heard. And then finally, if you watch the video to the end, you will have the honor of watching and hearing us peel off the protective film from this brand new shiny console. If you're new to the channel, my name's Jake Gosselin with Churchfront, and behind the camera we have Luke. We both came out here to Graham, Washington to deploy this system, and you should check out all the links below this video if you would like to work with our team. At churchfront.com you can learn more about our Churchfront Accelerator program. This church and the worship leader here, Jamie, is a member of that program, and in that program you get consulting services so we can work alongside you in designing systems, and you also get access to our integration services. So if you need to upgrade any gear at your church or deploy a new system like what you're gonna see here, whether it's with audio or video solutions, we can take care of that for you. So check out the links below to learn more and apply for the Accelerator program today. Let's go ahead and dive into the video, and I'm gonna turn it over to Luke to give you a deep dive on why we went with the Allen Heath Avantis.
So here we have at High Pointe Church, we have an Avantis console from Allen Heath, 64 inputs, 42 buses, using that in a combination with the Waves SoundGrid network and Dante. So if we come around to the back, you can see the expansion cards we put in here. The Avantis is a great console because it's got lots of local I/O as well as some expansion card output options to connect your console to different networks like Dante and Waves. So we can now send high quality audio to and from different computers into the console. We can use Dante enabled microphones if we want to, and we can connect to things like Waves SuperRack for extra plug-in processing on the console in addition to what's already included in the console itself.
I'm a huge fan of the Avantis and this mixing workflow. I might even say it's my personal dream mixing setup. So with the Avantis and Waves SuperRack and using the Waves server and host computer here, what I like about this setup is you do have the power and capability of an Allen Heath pro level console with that incredible DSP inside this console, and then of course all the things that you love about having a regular hardware console here with amazing motorized faders. These touchscreens are awesome. You can easily have two people working on this desk at the same time as these separate halves of the console function very independently. It's easy to do virtual sound checks on it. But our philosophy in building the show file for them was to do most of your basic channel processing and even some light group processing on the Avantis here because it is packed with a ton of power and capability. And then we're using Waves SuperRack over here for kind of the cherry on top of the mix. So for the vocals, we've got Waves RealTune here. We're able to select the key of a song and lock it into the right key for all of our individual worship leaders. And then we've got a plugin like Silk Vocal. You could spend hours and hours experimenting with all of the different Waves plugins. So what's great is I have my vocal channel rack right here, and you can actually see we have a rack for really all of the various channels that we have on the Avantis console. And then on your rack, you have your input from the console, and then you have the rack to process it, then you have the output to return it back to the channel on the console. But you could also take a bus or aux mix from the console and run it through one of these racks as well. And then when you're ready to add a plugin, you go to the plugin list, and then you can go select which one you want. Like here, we've got the C6. This is a multiband compressor. Just so much power and capability with Waves SuperRack. And of course, you're able to set user keys on here so that as your mix engineer is mixing throughout a Sunday service, you can assign like what key a certain song is to trigger the right key in your vocal tuning. You want to make sure you do trigger the right key for the right song, or else it's going to sound horrendous. The other thing to consider with this type of setup is in-ear monitoring. We'll show you the ME-1 personal mixers that we have on stage. But back at front of house, we're actually using this console for some aux mixes for in-ear monitoring as well, for mainly the frontline musicians like the worship leaders and the vocalists who have some wireless packs. They are mixing their mix from this console remotely with the iPad app or their phone app to control their mix. And then what we're able to do here with the Avantis and Waves is we're actually able to set the tap point for their channel on how it's sent to their mix for their ears, for their monitors, so that they hear the EQ and compression in the Avantis, but then they are not going to hear the additional plugins like tuning that we're applying in Waves SuperRack. And you don't want a vocalist to hear their voice being tuned. That could cause some really interesting issues with them, making sure that they're wanting to sing in key. So this is actually one of the more nuanced advantages I like about the console like the Avantis over something like the Waves LV1 if you're trying to run monitor mixes off the LV1 itself. There's other ways around it. You have enough channels on these consoles. You could have your vocals go into separate channels just for your monitor mix, and then have a separate channel strip for your front of house mix. There's lots of power and capability here, but this really simplifies the setup. What's cool about this Dell monitor, it's a touchscreen, so it's really great for interacting with Waves SuperRack, and it's connected to the Axis Scope host computer for Waves. It's a PC computer running Windows 10, I believe, and that's what you load up your Waves SuperRack software in. And again, you can build out your show file here, save all the settings, and it's just super easy to navigate. On this other monitor here is actually another computer. It's a Mac Mini, and we have this Mac Mini rack mounted in the little rack here at front of house. And this Mac Mini is running Waveform, a free software great for running virtual sound checks that allowed us to capture the rehearsal of the band who came in last night. We were able to get the audio recordings for each channel, and then today we spent a lot of time dialing in the mix and building their show file. One thing I really love about this project is this really minimalist stand-up desk front of house setup that we were able to build alongside the team here at High Pointe. So we have two uplift desks. They just look great. The design is awesome. This is like, I think it's like genuine wood, or maybe it's not genuine wood, but it looks like it. It feels great. And of course, the desks can go up and down. We're actually waiting on a longer Thunderbolt cable for this desk so that our beautiful Mac studio display doesn't go falling off the desk if it goes up and pulls tension on the cable. Anyhow, in the middle here, we've got this very small little rack. I do think we could go for a bigger size rack to give us more storage capability here, and it would help a little bit with the cable management on the back side of it, but we're able to get it pretty clean. And then we have another uplift desk right here that the Avantis is sitting on, and lots of great cable management going on underneath here. As you can see, it looks pretty clean down here, right, Luke?
Looks pretty clean.
Yep, I think this is a headphone cable, right?
Yep,
that's it.
that's right.
Headphone, and then we got the talk back mic right here. We could probably find a better spot for it. But lots of Velcro ties. You got these cable management things. What do you call this, Luke?
A trunk.
A trunk.
Cable trunk.
You've got these trays under here. You got a bunch of little sticky hooks on the bottom. Highly encourage checking out these tools. We'll link all of it down below if you're looking to build something similar.
So here at High Pointe, they had a nice mobile rack that they had kept everything in when they moved into this gymatorium for kind of ease of movement. And they thought this was gonna be a temporary space for their students, and it ended up kind of being their permanent space for their entire congregation. So we decided to move into a more permanent rack setup. So we got this 12U rack and put everything inside of it, including their visual distro, their Waves host computer, and their server. We rack mounted the Mac Mini that's running our virtual sound check, and we rack mounted their computer graphics workstation, their Mac Studio, into one of these Sonnet rack mounts for this setup. It kept everything nice and clean. It's in between the two desks, and now they kind of feel like it's more permanent. The rack is in one spot. So moving to this rack really cleaned everything up. It made it feel less mobile and a little bit more permanent, which is a nice addition to the space, and it kind of ties everything together in between these two workstations. So this church has been using an X32 prior to this upgrade, and they've been using the P16s via Ultranet for any in-ear monitoring solutions. And the team was okay with it, but when they moved to the Allen Heath ecosystem, they were really excited about the ME offerings that they had. And so we went with the ME-1s for the backline people in the band, so all the static positions, keys, bass, electric, acoustic, like we had those positions kind of locked into an ME unit. And the cool thing about this was we only had to set up one unit, and we saved the configuration, all the naming and all of the organization of the buttons to a flash drive. And then we just walked around to each independent ME and loaded up that config profile. So it really was a fast setup. It's receiving all of the channel names and layout from the console over the S-Link protocol. So really similar to how the X32 ecosystem works. But the thing I love about the MEs is that they've got a screen and they've got all this kind of unique nuanced control. So one of the cool things I love about the ME-1s is using groups. So we have an assignment for group number 1 to be the drums. And if we click into the drum group, you can see all the different channels of the drums, and each musician at an ME unit has nuanced control of their own drum mix if they want to boost or cut any of these independent channels or pan them for their own in-ear preferences. So this is a really cool feature of the ME-1s, and you can even do this with things like vocals and PGVs, or if you have multiple electrics on stage, you can make groups on these units so that each person really can get super fine-tuned for their preferences, therefore allowing them to execute their role better with a better mix.
So another upgrade we deployed here at High Pointe Church is their in-ear monitoring transmitters and their body packs. We have the Shure PSM 300 system that's down here. So we've got like 4 units and also a spare unit if they need another mix. Each of them are getting a stereo mix from the Avantis. I talked about that back at front of house and explained kind of the control we had over that mix for them. And it's stereo. That's very important for your musicians to hear everything they need to hear. And of course, all the ME-1 mixes are stereo as well. And what's really cool, well, whenever you're thinking about installing this much new wireless units, you want to think about your antenna combiner. And I'm a big fan of this new product by RF Venue. This is the architectural antenna. So instead of having the those little fins that you get to stick somewhere, and maybe they're ideal for like if you need certain like directional coverage or something like that. Here we're able to just want to get coverage of like this whole half of the room on stage. And these antennas are actually paintable. So we're gonna be able to like spray paint this black, and it's got a simple little mounting bracket. And then you can just mount this probably backstage here on one of the walls, so nobody's gonna see it. And once we plug this in, all the RF frequencies sounded super clear for the musicians at their belt packs. But I just thought this was a cool, innovative antenna, and we're recommending this at a lot of the churches that we are doing installs at. The other thing worth mentioning back here on our stage rack is, of course, the new GX4816 Allen Heath stage box. So it's got some amazing preamps, 48 inputs, 16 outputs that allows us to get all the mixes into the in-ear monitors for the musicians. And of course, that's sending up to 48 mono input signals to the Avantis for mixing purposes. One important thing Luke did when he first got here to the church too was help them do a rescan of the RF frequencies and getting the right frequencies assigned to the various receivers and transmitters, depending if it's in-ear monitors or microphone units, to make sure everything sounded crystal clear. He was able to use Wireless Workbench by Shure to do that frequency scan. It's a really great tool. It's just so important. Just when you get new wireless units, don't just turn them on and sync them automatically. Make sure you're intentional about the frequencies that you're assigning them to, and we highly recommend RF Venue antenna combiners. I love this acoustic drum set that they're using here at High Pointe Church. It's a vertical drum set, both the shells and the cymbals are actually by a company called Red, but they're in partnership with Vertical. So they're very intentional about making products specifically for drums in a worship environment. And they're beautiful shells. It just looks amazing. I just love the aesthetic of the drum set, but more importantly, it just sounds amazing. And we'll actually demo some of the sounds for you in a moment. One of the really important aspects of having an acoustic drum set set up is good miking, right? So of course we've got the shield here. We have the absorption panel on top to help, reduce the stage volume. We're still dealing with, bleed from the drums into vocal mics, especially for vocalists who are standing right in front of it, but it's still working fairly well. We're able to address that using the primary source expander plug-in on the Avantis, and it sounds pretty great. And then the drum set itself, to capture an amazing sound, we're using the DPA mics. So DPA kick in and out microphones, overheads, snare top, snare bottom, toms, and there's also a DPA hi-hat mic. These mics sound so good, you would totally be fine even if you had just the 2 overhead microphones and the kick drum. Like the way the overheads are able to capture the whole kit and how natural and balanced it all sounds, it's just really impressive. And of course these are premium mics, and you can tell when you're like handling them and putting them on the drum set, the build quality is amazing. They're so just so small. Like I love the build of the tom mics and the overhead mics. They're very small. It doesn't look like, you can barely even see the microphones when you're looking at the drum set. So really great job by DPA on this drum mic setup, and we couldn't be happier with the results. So like back at front of house, now they just have amazing source tone to work with when it comes to mixing a drum set. These red cymbals, the red in partnership with the vertical drums here, like they're really cool. They're like very wide cymbals. Look at these hats. They are 18-inch hi-hats and they're super thin. All these cymbals are just very, very thin. So I would probably tell my drummer to kind of take it easy on the cymbals, right? Like, don't be wailing them. I'm sure they have good build quality, but I also imagine if someone's reckless with them, you could probably start breaking them. But the sound is amazing. I'm not a worship drummer, but as a worship leader, I appreciate kind of the warm washiness of it. It's not gonna like be super piercing to your ears, and it just makes it really easy to mix.
So here we've got virtual Soundcheck running from Waveform into the console, and I'm gonna demo for you some of what the DPA mics and the kick and the overhead sound like so that you can kind of get a feel for the characteristics of these microphones. So
if you've been forgiven, if you've been redeemed, sing the song forever too. Oh, if you walk in freedom, if you bear his name, sing the song forever to him. Oh, sing the song forever and amen. If the angels cry, holy, all creation cries. Your name is the highest, your name is the greatest, your name stands above them all.
yeah, so with the Avantis, you've got these 2 screens, and it can be a little overwhelming in kind of knowing how to lay out your console or how to think about your mixing blueprint. And I think with this console, as with any console, I kind of follow the same mentality, but this is actually the console I mix at my home church in Arvada, Colorado. And so what we kind of do is we will process all of our channels over here on the left-hand side. So you'll notice that this is just a pretty clear run of all the band, and then we've got the vocals, pastor mic, room mics, click and guide, tracks, and then you'll see we really just have open channels ready for processing if they want to patch in additional instruments, and we keep going. And then it gets to the local inputs on the back, things like talkback and Dante playback from our media computer. So this kind of is my workbench where I do most of the processing during sound check, and then I kind of move over to more of a live side, which you don't have to do this, but the right-hand side is kind of the flow from after you're done with processing. I move over to where I keep my DCAs, I keep my left-right mix, I keep my 4 vocal mics really ready and accessible, as well as a pastor mic. I have a quick DCA here for effects that I can quickly kill if I need to, or I can fade it in really musically throughout the song. And then, you know, throughout the other banks, I've got my sends and returns for some effects like reverb and delay. I've got my groups that I'll kind of adjust for the broadcast mix and processing in the room. I've got 2 blanks there, and then I've got a mix bus bank for my in-ear mixes. So I actually also programmed hotkeys on this board to be able to jump into the wireless mixes of the vocalists at a moment's notice. So if our worship pastor was on stage and he wanted me to adjust something, I can hit the 1 button, and now I'm actually mixing his in-ears right on the board. Sends on fader mode. Mix 2 is button 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. So it makes it really easy to not only mix front of house, but also have quick access to help out the worship leaders if they need something adjusted in their mix.
All right, the moment you guys have been waiting for, a little bit of ASMR. You are going to hear Luke. Make sure you get that audio really good with that Rode microphone right there. Okay, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Give it a like, guys. Give it up for Jamie. Thank you, Jamie. Thank you so much for having us at the church. Why did you choose to have us bozos come out here and help you out?
Because you guys are awesome, and I've been watching Churchfront videos for a long time, probably since when you started. I mean, I talked to Luke, and him and I connected, and you guys have been great. I mean, it was great. I mean, it was very personal. Luke was able to answer all my questions. It didn't make me feel like an idiot, so that was good. So excited about the system you guys came up with, and we're ready to use it on Sunday.
Yeah. And then hopefully in the future, we've got what, LED wall upgrades, camera upgrades,
lighting upgrades, LED wall, yeah. Maybe some cameras down the road.
Awesome. So hopefully this won't be the last time High Pointe Church is featured on the channel. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.